everyone! Look at my wonderful son! He's so talented, we're so proud.
Some children grow up loved, others grow up performed.
Give him a big hand!
These grades are good, but not good enough. You need to be perfect.
They don't break you with violence. They break you with absence.
Golden child, scapegoat, invisible child, none of them got to be real.
Today, we're going to talk about something that's, well, it's tough, but it's so important. We're going to explore how to understand and then begin to heal from the scars of narcissistic parenting. Let's get right into it. I am not enough. Does that little voice in your head sound familiar? For so many people who grew up with a narcissistic parent, that feeling isn't just a bad thought that pops up now and then. Nope, it's more like a constant hum in the background of your life. And that's the core wound we're talking about.
And look, if that hits home for you, the most important thing to know is that you are so not alone. That feeling of being adequate, it's often the direct echo of a childhood spent trying to navigate a really confusing emotional world where your worth always seemed to be up for debate.
So to start healing from this, we've got to first understand the invisible system we grow up in. This isn't about placing blame, not at all. It's about getting clear. So what is narcissistic parenting really?
When you boil it all down, narcissistic parenting comes from a parent's own deep internal shame. And to deal with that, they see their child not as a unique, separate person, but as an extension of themselves. Kind of like a chess piece, they can move around the board to make themselves look good and feel validated. In that kind of system, love isn't a given. It's a transaction. It's conditional.
So what does this actually look like in real life? Well, the signs are usually pretty consistent. There's this pervasive lack of empathy, right? Which means your feelings were probably dismissed a lot. They're often hypersensitive to any kind of criticism, so a tiny disagreement could explode into a huge fight. And this one is really confusing. They can actually be jealous of your success because deep down, they see it as a threat to them. All of this is held together by constant manipulation, all to keep up that picture-perfect family image for the outside world.
And inside this whole system, kids often get pushed into these really rigid roles. You've got the golden child, who seems like they have it made, but they live in constant fear of messing up and falling off that pedestal. Then there's the scapegoat, who gets blamed for literally everything that goes wrong. They end up carrying this heavy belief that they're just inherently bad. And then there's the invisible child, who figures out that the safest way to survive is to just disappear, to not have any needs. And that, of course, leads to feeling totally detached and disconnected from yourself.
You know, these dynamics from childhood, they don't just magically vanish when you grow up. They leave these deep emotional scars that follow us right into adulthood. And eventually, they become that critical voice inside our own heads.
And this right here, this shows the huge disconnect that's at the very heart of it all. On one side, you've got the parent's constant need to look perfect, to get attention, to be the center of everything. And on the other side, the child's lived reality, where they learn, my true feelings are a problem, I'm only worth something if I achieve, and my needs just don't matter. This giant gap between what they needed and what you experienced, that's the source of the trauma.
And when you grow up, that gap, it turns into this stuff. It becomes that loud, relentless inner critic that sounds suspiciously like your parent. It turns into crippling perfectionism and this chronic self-doubt where you're never sure if you're doing anything right. You might find yourself constantly needing approval from others just to feel okay, or even getting drawn into toxic friendships or relationships because, sadly, the dynamic just feels familiar.
Okay, so if it's so obviously damaging, why is it so ridiculously hard to just set boundaries, or even walk away? Well, the answer is tangled up in our own biology and some pretty powerful psychological hooks. You have to get this. We're literally wired from birth to attach to our parents. It's a primal survival instinct. And that bond, it forms whether our caregivers are nurturing or not. It forms even when they're the ones causing us pain. And that creates this incredibly powerful, confusing, and painful sense of loyalty that's just so hard to break. And this is where it gets really tricky, because narcissistic parents are masters at exploiting that bond. Any attempt you make to become your own person is twisted into a personal attack against them. You try to set a healthy boundary, they call it rebellion. You ask for some independence, oh, that's the ultimate betrayal.
They make you feel guilty for doing the very things you need to do to become a healthy adult. Okay, so recognizing all these patterns, that is a massive first step. But wow, it can feel like a lot, right? So let's turn to the most important question of all. How do you actually begin to heal from this?
This is so important. The healing journey, it has nothing to do with changing them. It's all about you taking your power back, and it all starts with a few foundational, totally manageable steps.
It really starts with these 3 foundational steps. First step is awareness, seeing their behavior for what it is, a predictable, repeated pattern, and really truly letting it sink in that it was never, ever your fault. Second is acceptance, and honestly, this can be the hardest one. It means radically accepting the fact that you cannot change them. You just can't. And third, once you have that awareness and acceptance, you can move to action. This means you can start setting small, firm boundaries. And the real key here is to do it without feeling like you have to defend or explain your reasons.
And one of the most powerful actions you can take? Just refuse to get down in the mud with them. You know the drama they create? Just don't participate. Instead of getting emotionally sucked in, try to shift your mindset. Become like a scientist, a data gatherer. Observe their patterns, take mental notes, but refuse to react. That is how you start to disengage.
So once you start creating that space for yourself with boundaries, that's when the real work can begin. The work of rebuilding your true sense of self, and finally, finding your own voice in the world.
You know, a huge piece of this is learning to challenge the propaganda you were fed your whole childhood. All those core beliefs that you're not good enough, that your needs are a burden, that you're too sensitive. You have to learn to see those messages for exactly what they were, a reflection of their issues, not a reflection of you.
Here's an amazing, practical tool you can start using right now. The next time that harsh, critical voice starts up in your head, just pause for a second and ask yourself one simple question. Whose words are these really? I'm willing to bet that most of the time, you'll realize you're not hearing your own voice. You're hearing an old, tired echo of theirs.
And all of this, it's leading to the ultimate goal. Building, or maybe rebuilding, a self that is completely separate from them. It's about taking on the job of discovering what you actually value, what you like, what your standards are for your own life, all without needing their stamp of approval.
And that brings us to a really powerful final thought here. Maybe real healing isn't about getting an apology you know you'll never get. Maybe it's not about them finally changing. Maybe it's the quiet, profound, and deeply personal realization that you have grown past them, that you have passed them in maturity, and that you absolutely do not need their permission to live your own beautiful life.